This week the students had to do a little fabricating on the 48 Chevy project. We had 2 Honda vans come in, one needing some brake work and the other one with a sliding door issue. And we'll check in on the pedal car to see how the progress is coming along. So what we're trying to make is one of these pieces right here. This is a parking brake cable bracket that goes inside of the drum brakes in the rear. And the original one from one of the sides was rusted in 2 and couldn't be repaired. So we're making one out of this piece of sheet metal here. So we've got our first bend. Alright, so now the next thing to do, we have to put this over to bend this back around. We use locking pliers to hold our bracket to our support piece that's going to make the shape for us. So the first thing we're going to do is bend this around a little bit further. Try to get, what we're trying to emulate is that square shape right there. So we'll bring it around until it touches the locking pliers. Okay, at that point we're going to have to take the locking pliers off, unfortunately, because this isn't going to continue going around. So I'm going to put our piece here a little higher in the vise so we can hopefully get it to knock straight around. So we're trying to figure out a way to support this piece against our model, the piece we're making it off of. And Dylan had a good idea of using our brake caliper separators to hold it in place, and it looks like it's going to work. So we're going to bring this around nice and easy. Now it's going to hit the vise down here, but that's okay, probably because we don't need that much length. We made it a little bit longer than we needed. Alright, so here's what we were trying to make. We got that portion of it made. Now all we have to do now is make the loop piece for the cable itself. That's what we're doing now, is finishing up that roll that holds the cable. We're using a piece of old scrap pipe from an EGR valve. Seems to work out pretty well. Now all we have to do is cut off the excess and it'll be as good as the original one.
We had to take a bracket from the end of the old parking brake cable that wasn't included with the new one. Then we had to cut a small slit in it so it can be used on the new cable. The groove we cut in this one will allow the cable to be slid into it. Now that we have installed the new parking brake cables, the shoes can be mounted to the backing plates. Here is the piece we made to support the brake cable. It's cool knowing we fabricated something that will be used for our car. In order to install the pinch bolt for the parking brake bracket, we had to shave one side of the bolt. We ran the nut all the way up the bolt so it will clean the threads when we remove it. As you can see, the bolt as is will not go in. But the shaved bolt falls right through. This boot will help keep dirt and water out of the cable.
This Sebring has an engine code for low EVAP leak. We're smoke testing it to find the leak. This is when we add smoke to the area we suspect and look for smoke. You can see smoke coming from the EVAP canister. We removed the unit and found it to be coming from the valve. We'll get a used one from LKQ to replace it.
This vehicle also had a bad oil leak coming from the oil pan gasket, so we're replacing that as well. First, we drain the oil, then remove the perimeter bolts. The AC bracket had to be removed as well. Someone has been in here before and used sealer instead of a gasket.
There you go. There you go.
The pan comes down, then gets a thorough cleaning.
The sealer is scraped off the engine in preparation for the new gasket. The only sealer we add is at the engine and front cover parting lines. With the gasket on the pan, we install it. Then torque it in place. We'll add fresh oil and change the filter, and the leak will be repaired.
This van had a steering wheel vibration during braking. Typically, warped rotors are caused by over-tightening the lug nuts. Rather than machining them, the customer opted for new rotors. The rotors are cleaned to remove the cosmoline that is put on them from the factory. Cosmoline is a petroleum-based product used to coat the rotors so they don't rust before they're bought and installed. Failing to remove it would cause the cosmoline to be absorbed into the pads and brake grab would result.
New hardware is installed and greased. The caliper brackets are mounted. The new pads go on, then the calipers. Since it was already on the alignment rack, we did a quick alignment.
I'm using cardboard to make a seat template. I'm using a push mower handle to extend our pedal car into a truck. And this will be the bed for our truck. Now it gets welded onto the bed. And then attached to the car. We're straightening old brake lines that might be used for our wood bed slats. I'm drilling holes to mount the rear axle in its new location.
This van has a binding side door. We suspect the top hinge is bad, so we're removing it. We take out the taillight to access one of the bolts holding the trim cover on. After the front trim bolt is removed, we remove the trim. A jack is used to support the door. Since it's on the alignment rack, a bit of creativity was used. Now we can access the hinge bolts.
You can see the hinge rollers aren't worn. They're non-existent.
To change it, we remove the E-clip from the pin. Then drive the pin out with a brass hammer. Next, the mounting hinge is pinned to the new roller assembly. Then, the E-clip is installed. Now, it's ready to put back on the van. It operates smooth with no binding. We put the trim panel and tail light back in to complete the repair.
Next time on Bulldog Builds, we'll be setting the rear up for our 48 Chevy. We'll be replacing front struts on a Honda Pilot, and we'll be replacing the engine in this Honda Civic. See you next week.